Wait, is that the key?
Every face around the fire freezes in a mask of pure disbelief as Zhang Cheng pulls an object from the depths of his pack. He holds up a small, cylindrical crystal. It glints in the flickering light, bearing a haunting resemblance to the diamond-shaped artifact and Cheng Dao secured earlier. Yet, even at a glance, the difference is clear. This one is significantly smaller, almost delicate in comparison.
Wait a second, why is it so tiny?
Lu Linhai leans in, his eyes narrowing as he scrutinizes the strange crystal.
The craftsmanship is definitely the same as Uncle An's key, but
Lin Yi's gaze drifts from the crystal to the silent, bound figure of Brother Lei on the dirt floor.
actually it looks less like a key and more like a bullet.
A bullet? Now that you say it, yeah! It's the perfect shape for one.
And Cheng Dao doesn't waste words. He shifts his weight, stepping over Brother Lei to retrieve the hunting rifle bound beside the man. With a practiced click, he opens the chamber. Nestled inside is an identical crystal cylinder. But this one is different. It lacks the translucent clarity of Zhang Cheng's find. Instead, a complex web of internal components is visible through its surface.
I've examined the key you found before. The internal mechanics and the precision of the machining. It's far beyond anything we understand as modern technology. And that includes those automated defense systems that guard the city limits. We haven't seen them up close, but this single object proves their technology operates on a level we can barely even conceive.
But wait, if they have all this high-tech stuff, why haven't we ever seen a trace of it before?
It's a technological blockade. The true humans, they rewrite history to suit them. They can just as easily hoard advanced tech to keep the freaks and the livestock under their thumb. Uncle Ann, do you know your way around a firearm?
A simple hunting rifle? I can manage. I'll give it a shot.
Take a shot. Aim for something in the distance.
And Cheng Dao nods, his movements methodical as he slides the crystal into the chamber. He supports the wooden ferend with one hand, his finger resting lightly against the trigger. Bracing the buttstock firmly against his shoulder, he takes a breath and squeezes. A deafening roar shatters the silence, and in a blinding flash, a distant tree erupts in a shower of splinters and fire.
Whoa! Where did that come from? How can a rifle do that?
I missed. I definitely didn't hit the trunk directly. And the recoil. It was barely there, like a toy.
You missed? Then how the hell did that tree just explode?
It's not the gun's mechanism doing the heavy lifting. It's the bullet itself. That crystal cylinder is an energy vessel. Pure power compressed into a stable form. When you fire, you aren't launching a physical projectile. You're releasing a concentrated burst of energy. This rifle was likely designed specifically to harness and direct that discharge. The energy expands violently upon impact, or once it reaches its limit. That's what caused the blast.
Zhang Cheng looks down at the prone, trembling figure of Brother Lei, a slight shake of his head indicating his revised assessment.
He's not the master marksman we feared. When he stopped the bus, he wasn't aiming for the tires at all. Hitting the wheels of a moving vehicle would require professional training, and he couldn't risk killing everyone inside. He was aiming for the road. The energy shockwave from the ground impact was what shredded the tires.
But where would a guy like that even get a weapon like this?
The abandoned city? Remember the quail hunter units mentioned in the files? It's highly probable this rifle was lost by one of those units during a skirmish with freaks. It only makes sense that the Master's enforcers would be equipped with such advanced hardware. With that kind of firepower, it might actually stand a chance against a mantis wolf's shell.
Lin Yi's eyes are fixed on the rifle in Cheng Dao's hands, weighing the tactical advantage it provides.
If these crystals are just batteries for weapons, does that mean the key Uncle Ann found was a gun too?
I can't say for sure. Like I said, we're dealing with a total technological blockade. Our current understanding of science is completely inadequate to decipher their methods. Besides, it's a moot point now. Your key is already in pieces, isn't it?
Zhang Cheng turns his cool, analytical gaze toward Chu Kai, the silence stretching between them.
The energy stored in that key must have been fundamentally different from these bullets. If it had been the same volatile energy, the moment it shattered, none of us would have survived the blast.
I just wasn't thinking. In that moment, I am so sorry.
Forget about it, man. We're all still breathing, right? And with Lin Yi around, we've always got a second chance.
Lu Linhai steps over and gives Chu Kai a firm, supportive pat on the shoulder, breaking the tension. Zhang Cheng watches the shadows deepening on the faces of his companions. He knows exactly what they're feeling, that crushing realization of how truly terrifying the forces they face are.
Let's focus on the problem in front of us first. We can worry about the rest later.
Lin Yi gives a single sharp nod. There's only one direction left to go, and whether it leads to salvation or the abyss, there's no turning back now. Instead of letting despair take root, he chooses to face the inevitable. After all, they aren't powerless. They are God-chosen.
You want my opinion? We should just stick a knife in him and be done with it. Betraying your own kind to side with those freaks. It's a spit in the face of every human being.
A blade won't work. Open wounds mean blood, and blood will bring every rat and monster bird for miles. So, we just toss him back into the village.
Toss him in there.
Lu Linhai's eyes drift toward the village. It's a wall of relentless, roaring fire. To be thrown inside is a guaranteed, agonizing end.
Exactly. The flames will cauterize any blood before the scent can travel. No scavengers, no mess. Besides, it's only fitting. Let him feel the same agony his victims did. Call it a final act of atonement.
The silence that follows is the only answer needed. Given the weight of Brother Lei's crimes, no one finds a reason to object. And Cheng Dao doesn't look back as he grips the bound man by the collar. He drags the struggling figure toward the mouth of the burning village, the rifle slung over his shoulder. Brother Lei's desperate pleas for mercy are swallowed by the roar of the fire, without a hint of hesitation. And Cheng Dao heaves him into the inferno.
Simply tragic. A soft-hearted soul like me really has no stomach for such sights. But look on the bright side. He gets to stay in the village he loved so much. Forever.
With the village settled, the group doesn't rush to leave. The massive wall of fire nearby acts as a natural barrier, keeping the rats and winged horrors of the forest at a safe distance. They collapse onto the scorched earth, the exhaustion of the journey and the battle finally catching up to them. In the flickering light, they begin to exchange the pieces of the puzzle they've gathered. The conversation eventually shifts toward Lin Yi's unique ability. He speaks of the glowing threads he sees and the deductions he's made about their nature. As the weight of his words sinks in, a wave of shock ripples through the group. Everyone except Chu Kai is left reeling.
Threads that show the future? Lin Yi, that's incredible. You're basically a god. If we can see what's coming, doesn't that mean we're practically invincible? We can dodge every trap they set.
I'm still not convinced it's anything as simple as time control. The way you describe those threads, it brings a specific myth to mind. The threads of the goddess of fate?
Threads of the Fates? Is that what we are calling them now?
Lu Linhai's brow furrows as he processes the name. He pauses, his expression shifting into one of skepticism.
What is your evidence for that? You have got a theory for everything, but this sounds like a reach.
Zhang Cheng remains silent for a moment, his eyes fixed on some unseen point before he turns his gaze toward Lin Yi.
Tell me, Lin Yi, in those final seconds before the end when death was inevitable, what did you feel? What were you thinking? Everything was a mess. Pure chaos. I could not accept dying like that. Not in such a senseless way.
Lin Yi speaks softly, his eyes glazing over as a montage of his own gruesome demises flickers behind his eyelids.
And once the truth hit me that the world was crawling with those things, I felt this overwhelming refusal. I would not let it be the end. And that refusal was heard? Destiny granted you a path back, a second chance to rewrite the script.
Lin Yi crosses his arms over his chest, his expression hardening as he remains unconvinced.
That is getting a bit too philosophical for me. It sounds like you're overcomplicating things. I'm sticking with my original theory. It is time control, plain and simple. Just look at the facts. He rewinds when he dies, he freezes time when he needs to, and now he is getting glimpses of what is coming. If that is not time manipulation, I do not know what is.
I have to stop you right there. Precision is important if we are going to survive this. When Lin Yi breaks those glowing filaments, he is not just seeing what is next, he is sensing the ripple of events before they solidify. Sight is passive, sensation is interactive. It is a fundamental distinction that we cannot overlook. Besides, my fate hypothesis does not contradict the evidence. It explains it in a way time manipulation cannot.
Zhang Cheng leans forward, his voice dropping into the steady, clinical tone he uses when he is about to dismantle an argument.
Think back to the old myths. The Greeks spoke of the three Moirai, the goddesses of fate. The first weaves the thread, creating the very fabric of existence and the start of a soul's journey. She is the past. The second measures the thread, determining the length and course of one's days. She is the present. And the third, she carries the shears. She cuts the thread, marking the future and the finality of death. As I have mentioned, Lin Yi's deaths are the catalyst for his immortality. He dies only so he may never truly perish. Each time he returns from the brink, it is a deliberate act of rewriting his own destiny. Whether he is dragged back by death or instinctively slips through time, the goal is always the same, to change the outcome.
When you frame it like that, I guess it starts to sound plausible.
Lin Yi trails off, his confident stance softening as he considers the possibility. The logic is beginning to poke holes in his certainty.
It fits the facts in a weird way, I will give you that. But there is still the matter of the time stop. How does your fate theory account for him freezing everything in place?
Zhang Cheng falls into a deep silence, his eyes darting as he connects the final dots. He rises from the dirt, crossing the small space to stand beside Lin Yi.
The time stop isn't just a power, it is a safety valve. It triggers to give him the window he needs to alter fate before the Reaper's blade actually falls.
You're losing me again. What are you actually saying?
He isn't alone in his bewilderment. Chu Kai and the rest of the survivors exchange puzzled glances, the abstract concepts flying over their heads. Zhang Cheng doesn't offer a simplified version just yet. Instead, he keeps his focus on the source of the anomaly, looking down at Lin Yi with clinical intensity.
You mentioned it earlier, the moment those threads snapped, you got a flash of what was meant to happen to the others, didn't you?
Lin Yi gives a slow, heavy nod, the memory of those phantom futures still fresh in his mind.
The first ones I noticed were linked to Little Yun and Zhao Hu. I saw them clearly, but the situation was too chaotic. I couldn't reach them in time. Then I saw the thread on Uncle An and the gun. That's when I knew I had to act.
Every head in the shack turns toward Chengdao, their eyes searching the stoic man for confirmation.
Lin Yi pulled me aside before we hit the forest. He told me to watch my back. Because of that, I was ready when the villagers closed in.
And Chengdao speaks with his usual efficiency, beginning to lay out the details of the ambush they narrowly avoided in the dense tree line. Once inside the dense woods, the villagers made a show of searching for their prey, but they didn't wander far. Like a closing fist, they began to tighten their circle around Chengdao. And Chengdao's senses, honed by years of butchery and survival, catch the shift in the wind. He doesn't wait. With a mental flick, his heavy cleavers detach, hovering inches above the dirt as they loop around the approaching threat. The first villager lunges, a signal for the rest to swarm. But Chengdao is faster. The blades at his command blur into motion, a preemptive strike that catches them entirely off guard. He holds back the killing stroke. At this point, the horrifying truth of the parasites remains hidden. To his eyes, these are still just misguided neighbors. He cannot bring himself to end their lives. Despite their numbers, The villagers find themselves hitting an invisible wall of spinning steel. No matter how they push, they cannot break through his defensive perimeter.
The villagers had me pinned, but that man, Brother Lei, hadn't shown his face yet.
And Cheng Dao's voice remains steady as he resumes the story, his hands tracing the phantom paths of his blades in the air.
The moment I spotted him, the barrel of that gun was already centered on my chest. I was dead in his sights. I saw him pull the trigger. There is no doubt in my mind, but the blast, it never happened. The air stayed silent.
And Cheng Dao pauses, the technical details of the advanced weapon surfacing in his mind. He adjusts his statement for precision.
The energy vessel in the weapon failed to release its charge. It just jammed.
Exactly.
Zhang Cheng says with a sharp nod. He turns his clinical gaze back to Lin Yi.
The same logic applies to that bear trap you and Chu Kai stumbled upon. It wasn't luck that saved you. You physically severed the lines of their destiny. In doing so, you forced the universe to recalculate their end. But don't mistake yourself for a deity. Altering the threads of others isn't free. There is a toll to be paid for such interference.
Zhang Cheng crouches, his movements slow and deliberate. He reaches out, his finger pressing with ghost-like lightness against the center of Lin Yi's chest.
Hiss.
The touch was weightless, yet the reaction is volcanic. Agony erupts from the point of contact, radiating outward like liquid fire. It feels as if his very muscles are being shredded, his heart crushed in a vice of pure, unadulterated pain. The dull ache he'd been ignoring suddenly sharpens into a scream. He'd dismissed it as simple fatigue, a side effect of the loop, but the reality is far more gruesome.
Stop ignoring it. Lift your shirt. See the evidence for yourself.
With trembling fingers, Lin Yi peels back the fabric. Revealed beneath is a horrific, mottled bruise, a deep, sickly purple that looks less like a contusion and more like clotted blood beneath the surface.
What the hell?
Lu Linhai's eyes widen. He's on his feet in an instant, crossing the shack in 2 strides to get a closer look at the damage.
Don't stop there. Check your leg, the exact spot where the pain flared after you saved Chu Kai from the trap.
Lin Yi hitches up his pant leg. There, marring his skin is another dark, angry mark, a mirror of the agony he felt in the moment of intervention.
This is the law of exchange. You removed their burden, so you must carry the weight of the fate that was meant to crush them. You're lucky, in a way. The weight you're carrying has been diluted. If you had to bear the full force of their deaths, your body would have shattered hours ago.
Lin Yi's brow furrows as he tries to understand how he missed such obvious injuries. It wasn't just the adrenaline of survival. He realizes now that the peak sensation, that overwhelming rush of euphoria from breaking the threads, had acted as a psychic anesthetic. It numbed his nerves, masking the physical trauma until now. It's a dangerous mercy. A high that blinds him to the fact that his body is slowly being broken by the fates he's stealing.
Looping to save yourself is one thing. But if death becomes your only tool for negotiation with destiny, your vessel will eventually crack under the pressure.
Zhang Cheng pauses, his eyes narrowing as he considers another, even darker possibility. He speaks with a renewed sense of urgency.
The danger isn't just physical. Your mind is at risk too. Every time you jump back, the lines between what was and what has become blurred. Eventually, you won't be able to tell the difference. That's a one-way trip to total psychological collapse. In all probability, it's a combination of both, a broken body and a shattered mind. That time stop? It's not a gift, it's an alarm. Your own ability is trying to tell you that you're reaching the limit. Ignore that alarm, and the next time you try to loop, you might not make it back in one piece. You'll just be a cold body in a previous timeline.
Zhang Cheng's voice is devoid of emotion, carrying an absolute chilling weight that makes the air in the shack feel even colder.
I'll repeat myself one last time. Death is not a strategy. It's a last resort to be used only when every other option has been exhausted. And there is another thing, those glowing threads. Don't just snap them on impulse. You need to pause and calculate. Every time you change someone's path, you take on a portion of their burden. You must ask yourself, can I afford the cost of this life?
The warnings are dire, enough to break most people, but Lin Yi just stares ahead. His resolve remains unshaken. He's already seen the worst the world has to offer. A few bruises won't stop him. Lin Yi sifts through the weight of the warnings. Despite the risks, one truth remains. He can now see the shadows falling over his friends. He can see the danger before it strikes. A bit of physical agony? A few more bruises? Compared to the finality of losing someone he cares about, the trade seems more than fair. It is a price he is willing to pay. He can recover. He can heal. A few days of bed rest is a small cost for a life saved from the void. Zhang Cheng's expression shifts. The grimness fades, replaced by a glint of clinical curiosity. He looks at Lin Yi, a new plan forming in his mind.
Lin Yi, theory only goes so far. We need data. We need to test the boundaries of what you can actually do.
A test? Now, how are we supposed to do that in here?
He's right! Everything is quiet for once. We can't exactly go looking for a monster just to see if you can save us again. Besides, weren't you the one preaching about the price 10 seconds ago? Why are we pushing it?
I warned him against cutting the thread, the power of the third sister. That is the destructive aspect, the one that carries the physical toll. But fate isn't just about endings. To truly understand your potential, we need to see if you can access the other two aspects of the Moirai.
The other two?
Creation and measurement, weaving the threads into being and drawing the paths of different lives together into a single pattern.
As the words leave his lips, Zhang Cheng's eyes flick toward Lin Yi, a calculating look passing through them as if he's already chosen his next subject. Lin Yi squeezed his eyes shut, plunging into the darkness of his mind where the faint, ethereal filaments flickered into view. He concentrated on every minute detail, the weak shimmer of the threads and their slow, drifting motion as he tried to visualize them emerging from his companions.
Well, any luck?
Lin Yi crouched down beside him, his voice filled with a mix of curiosity and impatience.
Are you sensing anything yet? Are the threads of fate showing up on us?
He leaned in closer, fascinated by the description of the supernatural threads.
Shut it. Give him some space to concentrate.
Zhang Cheng shot Lin Yi a stern look before turning his attention back to the focusing boy. Nearby, Chu Kai and the rest of the group held their breath, their anticipation thick in the cool air. They all knew that if Lin Yi could master this power, it would mean a significant advantage for their survival. Lin Yi finally opened his eyes, looking lost. He stood up and began pacing in a tight circle.
Did you see them? Any threads at all?
Zhang Cheng held out his hands as if expecting something to manifest.
I don't see anything at all.
Lin Yi shook his head, his frustration evident.
That shouldn't be right. What exactly were you focusing on?
The threads. I was trying to imagine them growing out of everyone here.
No, that's where you're going wrong. The threads aren't the power itself. They're just how you perceive it.
Zhang Cheng shook his head, his expression clinical.
Fate can take many forms. Focusing solely on the imagery of filaments is useless. You need to reach for the core concept. Focus on fate itself.
Fate? But that's so abstract. How am I supposed to grasp something like that?
When I use my ability, a specific sensation manifests in my body.
And Cheng Dao spoke up suddenly, his voice raspy and steady as he drew the group's attention. He reached into his bag and drew out his blackened bone-chopping knife, the heavy metal catching the flickering firelight. As he loosened his grip, the heavy blade didn't fall. Instead, it hovered in midair, defying gravity with an eerie stillness.
I don't know how to describe the feeling exactly, but in that moment, the knife feels like an extension of my own body. The blade then moves according to my will.
and Cheng Dao glanced up at the sky. At that moment, the bone-chopping knife followed his gaze and soared upward into the darkness. After circling the air twice with a faint whistle, the weapon returned smoothly to his waiting hand.
You can imagine the ability as a part of your body, then carefully sense your internal state. It's like...
And Cheng Dao paused, his brow furrowing as he searched for the right words to describe the sensation.
It's like having diarrhea.
He delivered the comparison with complete seriousness, his expression unchanged.
When you have a stomach bug, you clearly feel that cramping pain in your gut. It's roughly that kind of sensation.
Diarrhea?
Lin Yi stared at him, completely stunned by the bizarre analogy. After hearing in Cheng Dao's description, Lin Yi found himself even more confused than before.
Our abilities are different from yours.
Chu Kai spoke up after a moment of quiet reflection, his voice steadying the air.
Ours are tied to concrete things we can perceive. Take my ability, for example. When I use it, I just need to concentrate on looking, listening, and sensing. These can all be controlled through the brain. But your ability is quite abstract. I'm not sure if the way Uncle Anne and I experience our powers will actually help you.
Lin Yi sighed, realizing that Chu Kai was likely correct. Whether it was in Cheng Dao's hovering knife or Chu Kai's enhanced senses, they were things that could be seen or felt physically. Only fate remained an enigma, something he had no idea how to perceive or control. What exactly was fate? In truth, Lin Yi couldn't explain it himself. Fate was both a constant and a variable in his life. The fact that the parents who raised him for nearly 20 years were actually freaks who would kill and eat him, that was a terrifying constant. Riddled with pain, his former self had died and come back to life, returning to the past. That was the ultimate variable. As he thought about it, a spark of realization began to form in his mind. He still didn't know how to visualize fate, but he could remember the things that had happened to him. Zhang Cheng had said that the threads were just one manifestation of fate. In that case, weren't the events that had occurred in his life another manifestation? With that thought, Lin Yi closed his eyes again, sinking into the deep well of his memories. In a trance-like state, a sudden surge of pain radiated from his chest. It was the backlash he had suffered after changing in Cheng Dao's fate. It was also the phantom pain of the moment his mother had plunged the knife into his heart. Lin Yi felt his body begin to heat up. In that instant, he could even sense the rhythm of his own heartbeat. The feeling was familiar. If he remembered correctly, he had experienced something similar in that split second when time had frozen. Of course, the sensation back then had been far more intense than it was now. Could this feeling be the
Stomach pain.
Cheng Dao had mentioned? Opening his eyes, he looked down. Lin Yi saw a single thread emitting a faint glow protruding from his chest, vibrating slightly in the air.
It's out!
Lin Yi's voice was laced with pure, unadulterated excitement. For him, this was the first time he could consciously control his ability.
Where? Who does the thread connect to?
Lu Linhai asked hurriedly, his eyes darting around searching for something he couldn't see.
It's not connected to anyone yet. It's just on me.
Lin Yi pointed to his chest, where the shimmering filament vibrated with a ghostly energy. Unfortunately, these threads were only visible to Lin Yi himself, leaving the others in the dark. After he explained what he was seeing, Zhang Cheng pushed up his glasses and nodded slowly.
Don't get too excited yet. The validation isn't over. If the thread emerged from you, then you should be able to control it and connect it to someone else.
Turning toward Lu Linhai, Zhang Cheng continued with clinical detachment.
Lin Yi, try to control the thread and link it to the gorilla.
Link it to Lu Linhai? Why?
Lin Yi hesitated, looking at Lu Linhai with a mix of confusion and concern.
To verify what other functions your ability has?
Zhang Cheng explained, his gaze unwavering and focused on the potential data.
If snapping a thread can change someone's fate, then can actively connecting a thread determine their destiny?
If Lin Yi can determine someone's fate, then our path forward will be much easier.
Lu Linhai said with an excited, predatory grin, his eyes gleaming.
Whatever freak or master stands in our way, we could solve it in minutes. Lin Yi, hurry up and link to me.
Lu Linhai patted his broad chest, ready to be a test subject for the experiment. Lin Yi was a bit worried. After all, every thread he had seen before had represented imminent danger. But on second thought, he had no intention of hurting Lu Linhai. Even if they were connected, there shouldn't be any danger. If anything unexpected happened, he could just snap the thread immediately to stop it. And so, Lin Yi looked up at Lu Linhai and focused his will on the task. The thread from his chest began to extend, drifting toward Lu Linhai like a living thing seeking a host. The thread attached itself to Lu Linhai's chest, but Lin Yi didn't feel any different than he had a moment ago.
Well, do you feel anything?
Lin Yi shook his head, his expression remaining neutral despite the failed attempt.
Same here. Still feel like a gorilla ready for action.
Lu Linhai flexed his muscles with a grin, looking as energetic as ever. Zhang Cheng rubbed his chin thoughtfully, then leaned in and whispered a few words into Lin Yi's ear. Seeing Lin Yi nod, Zhang Cheng turned back to Lu Linhai with a new instruction.
Gorilla run 2 circles around us?
Huh? Why?
Lu Linhai was completely baffled, staring at Zhang Cheng as if the genius had finally lost his mind.
Stop babbling! If I tell you to run, just run!
Still confused, Lu Linhai followed Zhang Cheng's instructions and began running around the group. He ran for several laps, but still, nothing unexpected happened. Zhang Cheng murmured to himself, sounding a bit puzzled by the lack of results.
Why did you want Brother Linhai to run in circles?
Chu Yun asked curiously, watching Lu Linhai's seemingly pointless laps.
Zhang Cheng told me to imagine Lu Linhai tripping and falling. We wanted to see if I could control his immediate fate through the connection.
Lin Yi explained, his voice flat as he watched his friend run. Unfortunately, the idea was a complete failure. Lu Linhai remained perfectly upright and steady. After that, Zhang Cheng tried several other methods to test the strength and function of the link. For instance, he had Lin Yi snap the thread to see if he could sense Lu Linhai's future, or perhaps see into his past. However, after several attempts, they all ended in failure, leaving the group frustrated. It wasn't until Lu Linhai accidentally bumped into Cheng Dao while running that Lin Yi finally realized exactly what his ability could do.
Lu Linhai, hold on a moment.
Lin Yi shouted as he hurried to catch up with his friend.
I think I've figured out another facet of this ability.
Lin Yi looked up, a sheepish and slightly guilty smile crossing his face.
The thing is, to test my theory, I'm going to have to punch you.
Wait, what?
Lu Linhai looked utterly confused, but despite the strange request, his trust in Lin Yi didn't waver. He squared his shoulders and braced himself.
Fine by me. Give it your best shot.
Lin Yi exhaled slowly, balling his hand into a fist before striking Lu Linhai square in the stomach. He held back, still feeling the lingering exhaustion from the fight with the villagers. This was a test, not a duel! After the impact, Lu Linhai looked down at where the fist had landed. The punch hadn't carried nearly as much weight as he'd expected.
You can do better than that, Lin Yi. Don't hold back on my account. I'm tougher than I look.
There's no need for that.
Lin Yi shook his head, his hand drifting to his own stomach as a small smile played on his lips. Nearby, Zhang Cheng rubbed his chin, his eyes lighting up as the pieces clicked into place. He slapped his thigh with sudden excitement.
I've got it. It's a shared fate.
Shared fate? What the hell is that supposed to mean?
Put simply, what happens to one happens to the other. You rise together, and you fall together.
Zhang Cheng turned his gaze toward Lin Yi.
Am I on the right track, Lin Yi?
Lin Yi gave a slow nod.
Earlier, when Lu Linhai collided with Uncle Anne, I felt a phantom impact on my own shoulder. It made me wonder if this thread allows us to share the burden of any damage taken. Just now, when I hit Lu Linhai, I felt that same dull ache in the exact same spot on my own body. That's why I had to be sure.
Zhang Cheng shook his head, his expression becoming more serious.
It goes deeper than just physical pain. Once that thread binds you, your very destinies are entwined for a time. Pain, fatigue, hunger, everything becomes a shared experience between the two of you.
Lin Yi considered this for a moment, his mind racing with the implications.
If that's the case, if I'm connected to him, would half of his training progress be transferred to me as well?
It's a possibility, but we'll need more data to confirm that.
Lin Yi severed the spiritual link and sank to the ground.
I'm completely drained.
Between the exhaustion of the battle and the throbbing of his own bruises, he had reached his limit. All he wanted was to close his eyes for a few minutes. And Cheng Dao tightened his grip on his heavy cleaver, his eyes scanning the surrounding darkness.
Take a break, everyone. We need to rest while we can. There's no telling what's waiting for us further in. Our strength is the only thing we can rely on right now.
He looked down at the meager pile of supplies they had managed to salvage.
The rations we brought and the extra gear Zhang Cheng and Lu Linhai took from that lay guy. They're a start. But they aren't going to last. Not at the rate we're going. Food won't be an issue as long as there are those giant rats to hunt. But water is going to be the real problem. Sleep now. I'll take the first watch. We'll figure out our next move once you've had a chance to recover.
In the distance, the inferno that had consumed the village was finally beginning to subside. The horizon was tinged with a pale, ghostly silver, signaling the approach of dawn. The heat from the dying fires lingered in the dry air, a small mercy against the morning chill. The group quickly organized a watch rotation. Exhausted beyond measure, Lin Yi simply collapsed onto the hard earth. As the adrenaline finally left his system, the crushing weight of sleep pulled him under almost instantly. Floating in the haze of semi-consciousness, he could hear Lu Linhai's heavy snoring nearby, punctuated by Zhang Cheng's quiet, grumbled insults directed at his large friend. Lin Yi hadn't been asleep for long when a blood-curdling scream tore through the silence of the dawn, jolting him back to consciousness. Just kill me! End this! Heart hammering against his ribs, Lin Yi scrambled to his feet, his eyes darting wildly around the clearing. He prayed it was just a nightmare, but one look at the pale faces of his companions told him otherwise. Everyone was upright and alert. Only Lu Linhai remained slumped on the ground, still lost in his heavy, rhythmic sleep. Zhang Cheng didn't hesitate, delivering a sharp kick to the big man's side.
Gorilla, wake up before something eats you.
Huh? What's the matter?
Lu Linhai rubbed his bleary eyes, a massive yawn escaping him as he struggled to process the tension in the air.
Brother, that voice, you heard it too, didn't you?
Chu Yun's brow was furrowed with worry as she turned toward her brother. And Cheng Dao's expression was as hard as stone. He gripped his cleaver so tightly his knuckles were white, his gaze fixed on the dense tree line.
If even Uncle Anne is on guard, then it wasn't a hallucination. We all heard the same thing.
Zhang Cheng's voice was low and heavy. He glanced back toward the smoldering ruins of the village before continuing.
That voice? It was unmistakable. It sounded exactly like Brother Lei.
What? That's impossible!
Lu Linhai's jaw dropped in disbelief.
The man is dead! We watched the flames swallow him whole. How can a corpse scream?
The memory of the execution was still fresh, a vivid image of fire and screaming. Hearing that same voice again felt like a cold hand tightening around their hearts. Lin Yi's mind raced. Logic dictated that a dead man couldn't speak, yet the evidence of his own ears was undeniable.
Maybe he's come back as a ghost, a vengeful spirit looking for payback.
Lu Linhai muttered the words under his breath, his voice trembling.
Gorilla?
The sharp rebuke seemed to come from right beside Lu Linhai. He jumped, about to snap back at Zhang Cheng when he realized something terrifying. Zhang Cheng's mouth was closed. He hadn't said a word. If it wasn't Zhang Cheng, then who had just spoken with his voice?
Wait, if that wasn't you then?
Chu Kai suddenly reached out, his hand clamping down on Lu Linhai's shoulder.
Shh, not another word. Listen.
Chu Kai's brow was deeply furrowed. He was still reeling from the previous battle, and pushing his senses now felt like grinding bone on bone. He held his breath, the world around him falling silent as he focused entirely on the rhythmic pulse of the forest. Suddenly, his face drained of color, his expression twisting into one of pure, unadulterated dread. He raised a steady, trembling finger, pointing directly into the heart of the forest.
It's here. A freak, a mantis wolf is right in front of us.
That sound, the wet, heavy thrum of a heartbeat, was unmistakable. It was the same rhythm he had heard back in the city, the rhythm of a killer. Lin Yi and the others followed his gaze, their eyes straining against the morning light, but they saw nothing but shadows and thorns. The dawn light filtered through the canopy, illuminating a dense, suffocating wall of strange, spike-covered trees. The twisted, leafless branches were covered in jagged thorns. Despite the clear field of vision, the forest seemed to hold its secrets tightly.
Chu Kai, there's nothing there. Are you sure you're not just seeing things?
I'm not seeing things. It's right there, damn it. It's just standing there, perfectly still. It hasn't moved an inch.
Lin Yi looked again, his eyes scanning the thorns, yet the creature remained invisible to him. But he didn't doubt Chu Kai. The boy's instincts had saved them too many times before. Besides, that scream they had all heard was reason enough to be on high alert. Lin Yi reached down and snatched the high-tech shotgun from the ground, thrusting it toward Cheng Dao. Visible or not, they couldn't afford to take chances. A preemptive strike was their only option.
Uncle An, take it.
And Cheng Dao didn't need further explanation. He let go of his cleaver, allowing the heavy blade to hover at his side, its surface gleaming with telekinetic energy. The energy-based rounds of the shotgun were their best bet for flushing out a hidden enemy. And Cheng Dao took the weapon and leveled it at the exact spot Chu Kai was pointing toward. As his finger tightened on the trigger, a flicker of movement erupted from the depths of the forest.
Did that tree just move?
Lin Yi's face turns pale as he stares into the dark woods. He's certain he saw it, a gnarled, thorn-covered trunk twitching against the stillness of the forest.
You're kidding! Are those things actually alive?
The suggestion sends a wave of nausea through Lu Linhai. Everyone, save for the blind Chu Kai, feels the weight of the observation. It wasn't the wind, the entire tree had shivered, its branches rattling like dry bones.
Stop being paranoid. If the forest were alive, the village freaks and that guy Lei would have been lunch a long time ago.
Zhang Cheng rubs his chin, his eyes narrowing as he studies the silent woods. He turns toward the butcher with a cold, calculated expression.
Doesn't matter if it's breathing or not. Let's see how it likes a face full of energy. Uncle An, blast it.
The energy cartridges are precious. Each one only holds enough charge for 7 blasts before it's rendered useless. But between the new stock and the shotgun's current load, they have over 90 rounds to burn. And Cheng Dao gives a silent nod, his finger tightening on the trigger. But just as he's about to fire, the grotesque tree shudders again, its thorned branches scraping the air. But the horror doesn't stop with a mere twitch. From the very heart of that gnarled trunk, a familiar voice drifts out, distorted, hollow, and chillingly wrong.
Gorilla! Gorilla!
The sound is a perfect, yet lifeless imitation of Zhang Cheng's voice, echoing through the trees like a ghost. Kill me! Kill me! Now it's Lei's voice, a ragged, pained plea that sets everyone's teeth on edge.
Did that tree just talk? What the hell is happening?
It's not a tree. It never was. Chu Kai was right. It's a freak.
The branches begin to uncoil. 6 gnarled limbs drop from the trunk, slamming into the bone-littered soil. The upward-reaching canopy collapses and refolds with a series of wet, organic crunches. It stands before them now, a mantis wolf, but not like any they've seen. Its shell isn't the slick black of the city dwellers. It's a dry, brownish gray, covered in serrated spikes that mimic the rough bark of the forest. This creature is smaller, leaner, and designed for the wild. Its camouflage is so perfect that even under the scrutiny of multiple torches, it had remained invisible until it chose to speak.
Camouflage. It's like an orchid mantis, perfectly adapted to the forest floor. A different species entirely. Are we looking at a mutation? Or is this what they look like when they aren't fed on city scraps?
And Cheng Dao doesn't wait for the monster to finish its display. With a sharp, practiced motion, he levels the heavy shotgun and pulls the trigger. The blast goes wide. Whether it's Anne's lack of training with firearms or the creature's inhuman reflexes, the energy bolt shatters a nearby gnarled tree into splinters instead of striking its target. At that exact second, the freak's back splits open. 2 pairs of translucent, fan-shaped insectoid wings burst forth, beating with such speed they become a blur. With a sudden surge of power, the creature takes flight and fires a second time, the barrel tracking the rising predator. But the energy discharge only hits empty air as the mantis wolf weaves through the dense canopy with impossible grace.
My knives are still more reliable. Take this.
He thrusts the warm shotgun into Lin Yi's hands. Before the boy can react, a series of metallic clangs ring out as a dozen razor-sharp butcher knives fly from Anne's bag, suspended in the air by his unseen power. 3 boning knives arc through the air, circling behind the flying abomination. They dive toward the beating wings while the heavier blades launch a relentless frontal assault to keep the creature pinned in the sky. The boning knives are inches from their target when the predator suddenly surges skyward, its wings a frenzied blur. It hovers for a heartbeat, looking down at the survivors with cold, alien eyes. Its serrated suckers hinge open wide. A thick, pale yellow stream of viscous silk erupts from its throat, spraying across the clearing like a web of liquid rot. The sticky threads entangle in Cheng Dao's flying blades, wrapping around the slicing and bloodletting knives in an instant. The once lethal steel is now encased in thick, rubbery cocoons.
Since when can these things spit silk? It's like a damn spider.
The silk is impossibly resilient. It doesn't just bind the blades, it dulls their edges and adds bulk, turning the precision instruments into useless weighted clubs that bounce harmlessly off the creature's shell. The remaining boning knives pivot, their tips tracking the rising freak as they accelerate into a vertical chase. Just as the steel is about to bite into the wings, the mantis wolf snaps them shut, retracting them into its carapace. The knives strike the hard armor with a shower of brilliant sparks, unable to find a seam. The creature enters a controlled plummet, falling like a stone toward the forest floor. At the last possible second, its wings snap open again, the downstroke sending it surging back into the air with a triumphant screech. This variant is a nightmare compared to its city cousins. It possesses a level of tactical awareness and biological versatility that makes the urban freaks look like simple cattle. Its compound eyes fixate on the group below. The creature's abdomen begins to writhe and bulge, and a cluster of reverse-barbed tentacles bursts from its belly, lashing the air like whips of meat. A high-pitched, excited screech erupts from its throat, but the sound quickly resolves into the hollow, repeated mimicry of Zhang Cheng and Lei. The mockery is chillingly deliberate.
It's coming straight for us. Get back!
Lin Yi snatches a heavy steel rod from the debris and lunges to the front. He drops into a low crouch, muscles tensed, ready to drive the metal deep into the predator's chest the moment it touches the ground.
Stand down. This isn't a fight for you.
And Cheng Dao yanks the boy back with one hand while the other catches a blackened bone-chopping knife as it whistles through the air. His face is a mask of grim determination as he stares down the descending nightmare.
Go. Find cover. Now.
We're not leaving you to fight alone, Uncle Ann. We're in this together.
Lin Yi refuses to budge. He levels the energy shotgun, his stance a perfect mirror of Ann's earlier posture. He knows the butcher is exhausted, pushing past the limits of human endurance while the rest of them have had time to recover.
Don't be foolish. It's just a single beast. I'm not so far gone that I can't handle a lone scavenger.
But why here? Why now? They should have hit Lei's village first if they were nearby. Did they follow us from the city?
Zhang Cheng doesn't answer immediately. He turns, his gaze fixing on the distant orange glow of the burning village they left behind. A shadow of frustration crosses his face.
It was the fire. My signal. It didn't just guide us, it called them.
Wait. Shut up. It's not just one.
Chu Kai's warning is punctuated by the sound of a dozen snapping branches. In the shadows of the forest edge, more trees begin to uncoil. 3 more sets of translucent wings snap open, beating with a synchronized hum. The first freak was just a lure, a distraction to keep their eyes on the sky while the pack closed in. 4 mantis wolves now converge on the clearing. Their serrated suckers hinge open in unison, and a barrage of thick, sticky silk erupts from their throats, a lethal net descending on the trapped survivors.